there, everyone. Welcome back to the show. And I say it that way because this week I am trying to kill two birds with one stone. So today's recording will not just be for Strong Inside and Out, but also for Empowered Educator that I host on YouTube. So let's dive in and see if we can make this happen. How was your week? Oh, mine was amazing. Amazing. Last week was so great. I had been contacted through some kind of something. I don't even remember how this fell into my lap. Based on the TED Talk, I'd been planning to do some workshops, and I wanted those workshops to be about 90 minutes. I wanted it to align with the content from the TEDx talk, but I wanted to make sure it was geared toward schools and school districts and supporting educators. So I'd been kind of playing with this idea, and then it just fell in my lap that a district outside of Dallas was doing a conference for their people the first last week of May and first week of June. So I applied and I got chosen. And I had about, I'm gonna say it ended up being about 40 people. About 60 were registered, about 40 showed up. It was amazing. I had such great interaction, really good feedback from the materials that I shared. Some people took my business card even, so hopefully that will lead to something in the future where I can continue to support those teachers. And yeah, it was pretty amazing. And what was really great about it is it just validated everything that I've been working on. I know that I'm moving in the right direction. So Monday was an extremely early day. I got up at 2 a.m. Nobody walks their dog at 2 a.m. I promise, because I was out there walking my dog and I was doing it alone. But my daughter had come to stay so that she could stay with the dog. I got him out for his morning walk, and then I got showered and hopped in the car at 3. I made it to right outside of Dallas, just a little bit west east of Dallas, and yeah, I made it there in plenty of time. Got set up, got my first session done. I was very, very tired. I drank a lot of coffee that day. I even on the drive back that afternoon. So yes, the 4 hours there and the 4 hours back, made for a whole work day, right? But I stopped and got Chick-fil-A, which I never do, and drank a Diet Coke. Only about half, but when I took the first swig, I was like, oh, this feels good. Now, the story behind Diet Coke, of course, is I gave up Diet Coke for Lent right before COVID. And with all of the health things that were going on and just the scarcity of being able to go places, I just never went back to it. And I was a Diet Coke fiend, let me just tell you. Um, yeah, and I haven't really replaced it with too much, but nonetheless, that day I needed the caffeine. And at that moment, coming back into Houston, I needed the cold fizz. I don't know, there was just something about it. Anyway, I got back around 8 o'clock and crawled into bed with the dog and just fell asleep because I was so tired. But very, very much worth it. So I hope you too had an amazing week. And, it's just one more reason that I always say, and it's why I wrote the book. When things come your way that align with your purpose, your values, and your goals and dreams, say yes to yourself. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anybody. I walked in, I was in a place where it was very foreign to me, very wealthy district, by the way, which is not what I'm used to working in. Very wealthy district, very nice facilities. This facility was just beautiful. And I kind of walked around. I mean, I parked on one side of the building and I should have parked on the other. And I mean, the whole gamut, right? But it gave me an opportunity to meet people. It gave me an opportunity to share my knowledge, and it gave me, most importantly, the opportunity to put out in the world work that I'm doing right now, which is exactly what I'm going to talk about today and exactly why I meshed the two episodes together. So say yes to you because if it flops, you don't have anything to lose, right? You didn't have it to begin with. But what if it doesn't flop? What if it's the right next step, exactly what you needed to make those goals and dreams a reality? All right, so this week, also today, as this releases on the podcast, and if you're watching on YouTube, this releases on the podcast on Tuesday, June 10th. My baby boy turned 14 today. Now, you all know I just have one child, or at least if you've been listening to me for a while, you know I have one daughter. She's amazing. She's turning 35 in August. So I'm not referring to her. I'm referring to my fur baby, Oakley. Oakley and I came together in July of 2011. And it was love at first sight for both of us. He, just a little backstory, I went to a home on the north side of Houston, just horrible conditions, right? My daughter and I, we were heading to Austin for a conference. And I said, I found this dog on Craigslist. I want to stop by and see it. And she's like, Mom, people die when they go to places on Craigslist. And I'm like, yeah, that's why I'm taking you with me so that we have strength in numbers, right? So nonetheless, we go to this home in on the north side of Houston, and we're fearful of our life, but we walk in and there are about six puppies in this crate. And the mom was a chocolate lab, and the fa no, I get that wrong. The mother was a pit bull, and the father was a chocolate lab. And they had six puppies, and all of the puppies were just a variance of colors. And five of the six came rushing out of the crate when they opened the door, and the sixth one just stayed back in the corner. And he was chocolate, and the only chocolate. And I said to the owner, what's going on with that one? And he said, oh, that one's not going to amount to anything. He's the shy one. We can't get him out of the crate very often. We have to crawl in, take him out, blah, blah, blah. So I bent down, kneeled down. I said, come on, little guy. And he got right up and he crawled right up into my arms. And I get emotional thinking about it, just remembering that day. My daughter said, Mom, he's your dog. And I said, yep, I need this one. So I wrote the check for $35. Yes, I had to write a check back in 2011. Wrote the check for $35. And I said to the owner, I said, okay, I want this dog. I'm serious about this. Here's the money, but I'm on my way to Austin for a conference for 2 days. Can you hold him and I'll pick him up on the way back? And they were willing to do that. I went back. He saw me. He came right out of the kennel into my arms, which then just reinforced the fact that I picked the right person. I consider my dogs people. I picked the right best friend to join my life. And we just came home, and the rest is history. He was 6 weeks old at the time, and he was about 7 pounds. And now he's 14. And at his biggest weight, he was 85, 86 pounds. He's probably a little under 80 now as he's gotten older and lost his muscle mass, but still my very, very best friend. So if you head over to my social media, you can see his picture. Um, just he's just the most amazing dog. So knowing that he's turning 14 on Tuesday, day that this is being released on the podcast, I know I don't have a whole lot more time with him, but he's my rock, and I'm going to cherish every moment that I do have. All right, so that's all of the things going on with me. Let's get started talking about this big project. If you listened in on Empowered Educator last week, On YouTube, you heard me kind of hint around what was coming. I have released, so last Sunday, June 1st, I actually released the website. Now, let me just tell you, it's a little raw. I think it's pretty good. I really do, especially because I did it myself. I've always been a WordPress.com girl, only because it's really simple and I didn't have the funding to have somebody come in and build me this big, amazing website. And I thought that I had made my website very nice and very beautiful. And then I made the transition, I want to say January, February, and I redesigned my WordPress.com website so that it would be aligned with the work I'm doing with education. And then I woke up one morning with this idea. And the idea was that we put so much pressure on our teachers and on our principals, and we give staff development, but the staff development tends to be maybe a drive-through, I call it, to where you get a little bit of information, but you're expected to go back and do all these great big things with it. Or you get information, it sounds promising, but then there's never any follow-through. So you get left hanging, right? Or you go to something that you choose to go to, and it sounds really amazing, and you know you want to implement it within your school or your classroom, but with all the other mandates on top, it's almost impossible. And I haven't even talked about the cost of some of this staff development. I know a few years back, probably about 5 years ago, maybe 6, the district I was working in decided to become an AVID district. So if you've never heard of AVID, it's achievement by individual determination or advancement, one of the two, advancement or achievement. I can't even remember. My gosh, it's been so long. But in order to be designated as an AVID district, we had to send a specific number of people every summer to the AVID conference. They held the conference all over the United States, and one of the locations was in San Antonio. They also had it in Dallas, but San Antonio is about 30 minutes closer than Dallas. And so we chose to send all of our people to San Antonio. And the principal or the assistant principal or the school counselor had to accompany that. That was a requirement. And the school administrator, whoever was accompanying the group, had to go 2 years in a row. So I went 2 years, my assistant principal went 1 year, and then she left. And then my counselor went 1 year as I was leaving. So we then had to decide how many teachers we were going to send. And it just so happened that it was so expensive that I really could only afford to send 2 or 3 teachers. And then the district would pick up one additional because they wanted us to send somewhere between 3 and 4. And just depending on funding and how much money we had left over for that conference, it was outrageous. One teacher, between the registration, the hotel for the 3 nights, and the conference was always on the Riverwalk in San Antonio, and those hotels on the Riverwalk are much pricier than hotels that are away, plus mileage, plus food. I would spend about $1,500 per staff member to attend this conference. Now, $1,500 times 4, it's a lot of money. And then on top of that, to have the designation as an AVID school, you had to spend an additional $3,500 in order to have the distinction. And then whatever materials you needed. Now, I use that as a prime example of a training, a conference that I'm not going to tell you was rocket science, especially for people who have been teaching 3 or more years. They didn't talk about anything new. It wasn't a new strategy. It was basically, and I'm not digging on Avid, I promise you, because we embraced it and we used it within our building. However, it was just reframing our thinking on reminding ourselves how to study best so that we could then teach that to students, how to organize ourselves best so we could teach that to students. So we weren't getting any new learning. We were just getting reinforcement for things we were already doing for a whole lot of money. My avid budget every year had to be around $10,000. Now, when you're talking a school budget, my whole campus budget was somewhere between 60 and 70,000 a year. And then my title funding was somewhere around 20,000 in addition to that. And we had to run the school building for the year, and we had to make sure students were prepared to take the test, meaning tutorials, and that's a very pricey activity as well. Money goes fast. And when you're pulling out that big chunk of money, that's a big amount of money for a small program. So I use that to say staff development for teachers and educators is not inexpensive. Sure, you can go around sometimes and you can find free things or things that are sponsored by entities. Like, for example, I went to teach like a champion for 2 days a couple of weeks ago. I didn't have to spend anything. My district didn't have to spend anything, but it was sponsored by an entity that we had to sit and listen to their their program and listen to their spiel and their sales pitch and all of the things, right? So somewhere, somehow, you're still going to pay something. And you can find some of those good trainings. Teach Like a Champion is something I've been to before, and it has really good strategies, which I think is a very, very valid, and I would highly recommend that training to teachers and school leaders. But you get my point. Staff development is not cheap. And with budget cuts that are happening right now, all across the United States for sure. And I don't know how it looks in other countries if you're listening in from somewhere else, but I know money is tight everywhere. The economy is wild and crazy, right? And because of stuff that we're doing here in the United States, it is possibly affecting any of the other countries, major countries anyway, in the world, right? And so schools don't have the funding to just send you to whatever you want. I used to have teachers ask all the time, can I go do this conference? Can I go do this training? I didn't necessarily have that budgeted for an individual teacher. So if I felt like it was something that was valid for their teaching assignment, and if I felt like that teacher was going to be one that was in it for the long haul, I wasn't going to do it for a teacher that was going to go to this training and then leave me at the end of the year, right? And take the training skills on to the next place, right? Because I have to be the steward of the money as the principal. Well, then I would work a deal with that teacher. And I'd say, okay, if you really want to go to this and you're in this for the long haul and you're committed to being here with us, then I need you to commit to coming back and teaching it to other people. And some of them would say yes, and they would go, and some of them would say no, and then they wouldn't go. Or sometimes we would work out a deal. Let me pay for your days off so you don't have to use your own personal time. You pay for your registration, things like that. But again, because funding is so wild and crazy and every year is a different situation, unfortunately, schools just don't always have the money. And then it goes back on the burden of the teacher. Now, I don't know about any of you, but I know how much teachers are making, especially brand new teachers. And I'm going to say that it's not horrible. Not here in the Houston area anyway, for most part, right? It's not horrible, but it's not grand. And when I'm talking it's not grand, I'm talking you can afford your life, but you're not going to have a lot of extra money where you can just say, oh, a few $100s isn't a big deal for me. Oh, $1,000 plus time traveling, cost of gas or a flight if needed, hotels, meals, all of that is not a big deal. It's not the case. Even for some principals, I was a high paid principal because of my years of experience, but principals don't go into the role at that level, right? And so when you think about that, you think about How are they supposed to get this good, high quality staff development for an affordable price? So, as I said, these kinds of things have been on my mind, and they've been on my mind for about the last year because what triggered this entire thing was that I was watching the news one morning and they were talking about a educator preparation program through a university that was closing its doors at the end of that school, that academic year, because they did not have enough applicants in order to feel like they could sustain the program for the cost that it was taking, for the amount of money coming in from those students. Totally makes sense, however, totally heartbreaking. And this is actually what put me on this trajectory of thinking, I have a lot of knowledge and skills. I have a lot of experience and wisdom. We need to save this profession because the other piece of this, and we all know this from COVID, teaching children from home virtually. Maybe high school kind of worked. I wasn't in that situation, but I can promise you this. I was in an elementary school. I was in a high poverty area. Parents couldn't do what they needed to do to be able to support their kids. Kids were babysitting their younger siblings because parents still had to work, and kids were not engaging in the work. And our kids went so far behind. And I know it wasn't just our campus because I talked to a lot of school administrators and teachers who are in the same situation. But the expectation from state, the policies, the federal government, it wasn't adjusted. We still had to meet the standards. I get it. People are overwhelmed. People are stressed. Everything is costly. Kids are now behind. But without these teachers, we're not going to be able to go back and really produce high quality students just going virtually or through AI or through robots or whatever some people might think could actually solve this problem. We need great teachers. We need great school leaders. And we need systems to be in place that can support everybody in a way that provides a learning environment that's conducive to student learning, teacher teaching, and schools running effectively and efficiently. So as this is brewing in my mind and I'm thinking about all of the different situations and all of the things that I've been trying to put out fires for, I also was thinking about my own business. I was thinking about the fact that I am a highly symptomatic these days ADHDer. Now, someone told someone I know that that's not a real condition, and I don't agree with that, but that's a story for another day because I know myself. I know that I've been able to accommodate my needs without medication, and I know that some people can and cannot do that. But I also know that I am somebody who is notorious to start a lot of different projects, and I don't finish all of them. I am one that gets very excited about something in the beginning and then can lose that excitement very quickly. I'm also somebody that has a lot of talents, a lot of knowledge and wisdom, and I want to get it all out in the world. And so here's what I was doing. I was creating, creating all these different programs, which, by the way, they're amazing because I've had a very solid, successful career. But when you're marketing and trying to sell 65 things to 5 customers, guess what's going to happen? It's going to be completely overwhelming and nobody is going to want to purchase. So one morning I wake up and I thought, what if? And I birthed my greatest, newest idea, Uncommon, which is a platform for educators who are built to do hard better. Pretty good tagline, right? I love it. I love it because those educators that keep doing this hard work, that keep going and love the work they're doing, even on the most stressful days, even on the days that they cry a little bit, or they quit in their own head, because I've been there, but they still love the work and they still know that they need to continue to find better ways to do the work more efficiently and effectively, especially with the changing mandates. They're uncommon because that's not everybody. And I wanted to provide something for these people. And it doesn't matter if you've been in this 20 years, 30 years like myself, you're in this for 30 minutes. I want this platform to be something that could provide valuable professional development, no matter what level you're at. And I want it geared toward the schoolhouse, the teachers, the school administrators, the aspiring school administrators. I don't need a superintendent necessarily into my program. I've never been a superintendent. I can't teach you how to be a superintendent. I mean, I could if I learned about it, but would I be authentic? I wouldn't. I would not do that. So focusing on the right people was point number one. Providing the right type of professional development was my point two. And doing it all for a very affordable price was point number three. And it just so happened that I was watching one of the many shows I binge on Netflix. Yes, I am addicted, right? Because I like to watch things and complete them. Otherwise, I know I'm not going to come back to them, right? So this idea was born. What if I could make this hub very similar to Netflix, where you come in for a subscription fee each month and you have access to a variety of trainings, resources, materials, even a talk show, even live events if they come upon, just like a Netflix, right? Think about Netflix. You make your profile. They're going to show you the things that align with the stuff that you've been watching and seeing. And then you choose. But if you want to go outside of your list, so to speak, you can choose to do that as well. Each month, a certain amount of information is housed or viewing opportunities are housed. Then they bring in more. Some things get retired. Some things can continue to carry on. And I just kept thinking, how amazing would this be? Because if I think back to my very first year, Sherry Dixon Self, I struggled and we didn't have money. We didn't have money. I didn't have opportunities to go do things. If the school sent me to something, I was always worried about being away from my students, about spending the money on gas, and that struggle was real, and I know it is real for others as well. I was worried about where was my child going to go, because if the conference or the training didn't finish until 4 and I had to drive across the city of Houston, I might not get home until 5 or 6, and then where was my child going to be? So did I have to take her out of school and take her with me? And was that even appropriate and professional? All of these things were going through my head. And it made me think, how amazing would this have been way back then? And then I think about the fact that, if I didn't have a dog, back when I had the summers off, and I've always had dogs, right? We've always been a family with dogs, but I would have probably packed up my daughter and we would have just gone back to Iowa for the summer. We missed our family. We wanted to be close to our friends that we grew up with, and we wanted our daughter to know her grandparents. But we couldn't do that because of other circumstances. But had I been able to do that, what if I were there and I wanted to log into my computer and be able to continue to learn? Maybe I want to take a trip over the Thanksgiving break, but I also know that I need to learn how to lesson plan better, how to manage my classroom better. Well, this hub, you can access it from anywhere. What if I want to spend my summer down at my neighborhood pool? I could take my computer with me. I could take my phone with me. and I could access the platform to be able to do my staff development right there on the spot. And this idea kept brewing and brewing and brewing. And I thought, okay, how do we make it happen? Now I have to tell you, it's been a lot of work so far, and the platform is not 100% ready. It will be ready on July 1st. We're taking names right now on a wait list. So if you know an educator who might be interested in this, send them to my website, Uncommon EDU. That's UNCOMMON edu.com. Uncommonedu.com. Go to that site. Look at all of the materials that I have to start to begin to advertise what's coming. And get yourself or your loved one on the wait list. Because when the doors open July 1st, I have a limited number of spots. Right now, I'm starting with 50, a limited number of spots open at a founding member price. And once you lock in on that price, you have that price forever. The platform will normally cost $30 a month. However, founding member price, $20 a month. And that will also include opportunities to provide feedback for this site to help me make it the best that it possibly can be. It will include in the future opportunities to come into live events at discounted prices, opportunities to be guests on my talk show, newest talk show, Educators Unfiltered, which is coming out August 1st, and it's going to be amazing. So 50 people, $20 a month. August 1, the price goes to the regular price, $30 per month. And again, every month I have to limit the number of people coming in so that I don't overload my systems. But right now I'm focused on July 1st. Founding members, $20 a month. Now, let me just tell you, I did the math. I did the math two ways. So first, I sat down and I said, okay, if I provide X, Y, Z, A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 for each type of client, school leader, current classroom teacher, aspiring leader, okay, 3 different types. The content, the value of the content itself will be at least $1,000 per month for each of those specific tracks. Then I thought about if I charged $1,000 a month or $997 a month, number one, teachers can't afford that, right? But that didn't mean I wanted to not give that amount of value. So I said, okay, I'm okay with it. Because what my main goal is to have the impact, the influence on the future of education. So I kept the value at $1,000 per month, but I put the price at $300 per month. So if we kept the price at $1,000 a month times 12, that would be $12,000 a year. Okay. But at $30 a month times 12, we're talking a total of $360 a year. And I'm going to promise you, I know that just at the region service centers or just little workshops that are a one-stop shop, sit and get and go home and do the best you can with the information, can run anywhere between 100 and 500, easy, let alone a conference. So when I stepped back and thought, okay, 360 for an entire year, that's amazing. And I didn't want people to have to be committed to a whole year. Of course, once they get in, I know that everyone will love it and will not want to leave. And in the future, there will be packages that you can just say, hey, I'm on board. I want this. Sign me up forever. However, right now, as it's building and growing, I need to have that flexibility for y'all because I need it to be fair. $30 a month? How many of you go to Starbucks 2 times a week? There's $30. I don't even know if you have to go 2 times a week to hit $30 these days, right? How many of you order DoorDash 2 times in a month? I don't know about you, one time. One time for me, DoorDash is going to be almost $30. So you can see that this is such an affordable price for anybody. And then you come in as a founding member and you get that discount down to $20 per month forever. Amazing, right? Amazing. So where do we go from here? Well, as I said, I wanted this on both Strong Inside and Out and Empowered Educator because you're out there. You're out there. You listen to me. You believe in me. You know I can give this kind of information. You know I can train teachers and school leaders to be their very, very best. The one thing that I would ask is if you know of somebody, please send them my way. That's my first ask. Whether they purchase or not, that's totally up to them. But if you can just put this out into the world, that would completely make my day. Because I know once people see the uniqueness of this site, the benefit of what they can get, and the affordability to be able to solve the problems that are real, it's going to be a no-brainer. But again, even if they're not ready to buy yet, send them my way. And then if you are an educator, school leader, somebody related to working with kids and growing them and helping them be their best, check out the site. Again, it's uncommonedu.com. Simple to get to, but check out the site and see if this might be for you. Just because you get on the wait list doesn't mean you have to say yes on July 1st. But if you don't get on the wait list and those 50 slots fill up, then you don't get that founding members price. And I don't want you to be one of those people. You thought about it too long. You weren't quite sure. Who is this girl? Does she really know what she's talking about? Yeah. All right. That was a lot today, huh? It was a lot. I appreciate you hanging in there. Again, I don't want to be pushy or shovey or anything, but I do want you all to know how incredible of an offer this is, how much information you can get. And the great thing is, as I drip it out, it's not like you got a new set of textbooks with 700 pieces of materials within your kit, and you have to learn them all before the first day of school. How many of you have been there? Because I know I have. And you're so overwhelmed. You feel like you're drinking out of a fire hydrant, right? That's the only way you can describe something like that. It's not that. It will be dripped in a way that's very, very manageable as well, along with the supports that you can get along the way. So let's get uncommon together. Let's help our educators out in the world do hard better. But more importantly, let's make them a priority, because without a great teacher, without a great school leader, all the other professions that come along would not be as amazing as they are, because our children would not have learned the knowledge and skills that they need. All right, y'all, that is everything for this week on these 2 episodes. Thank you for tuning in. Share this out if this is something you think somebody needs to hear. For sure, put my name out there. I just really, really, really ask you to do that and would really appreciate you doing so. And let's get on common together. All right, have an amazing week, and I'll see you all right back here on either Strong Inside and Out or Empowered Educator next week.